More than 3,000 years ago, someone forged a weapon for an Egyptian king. Its handle was covered in gold. Its sheath was decorated with lilies, feathers, and the head of a jackal. But the most extraordinary part was the blade. The metal did not come from an Egyptian mine. It did not come from anywhere on Earth. Modern scientists tested the dagger and found the chemical signature of a meteorite. Tutankhamun was buried with a weapon made from metal that had fallen from the sky. But this discovery created an even greater mystery. How did Bronze Age craftsmen shape a material that was exceptionally rare, difficult to work, and not yet commonly produced in Egypt? And who gave the young pharaoh a dagger made from the stars? In November 1922, archaeologist Howard Carter discovered steps cut into the rock of Egypt's Valley of the Kings. They led to a doorway bearing royal seals, and beyond it, one of archaeology's most famous discoveries. Tutankhamun's tomb had been disturbed in antiquity, but unlike most royal burials, it had not been emptied. Thousands of objects remained inside: chariots, statues, jewelry, furniture, weapons, and nested shrines surrounding the king's body. When Carter's team examined the mummy, they found two daggers. One had a blade of gold. The other was more puzzling. It had a finely made iron blade, a gold handle decorated with crystal and colored stone, and a richly ornamented gold sheath. The dagger lay against the king's right thigh, wrapped with his body as though it were meant to accompany him into eternity. Today, an iron knife might seem ordinary, but Tutankhamun died around 1323 BCE, near the end of Egypt's Bronze Age. At that time, iron was not ordinary, it was extraordinary. Egyptian craftsmen were masters of gold, copper, and bronze. They could cast monumental statues, create delicate jewelry, and cover wooden objects with sheets of precious metal. But producing iron from terrestrial ore required temperatures and techniques that were not yet widespread in Egypt. That made finished iron objects astonishingly rare. In the ancient world, some of the earliest usable iron did not come from mines. It arrived already metallic, inside meteorites. Most rocks from space are stony, but iron meteorites contain large amounts of iron mixed with nickel and smaller quantities of cobalt. To an ancient observer, a meteorite was unlike any ordinary stone. It appeared in the sky as fire. It survived a violent fall, and inside, it contained metal. Long before people could smelt iron ore on a large scale, they could collect this natural iron-nickel alloy and carefully hammer it into small objects. So was Tutankhamun's dagger made from one of these celestial stones? For decades, researchers suspected it. Proving it without damaging a priceless royal artifact was the problem. In 2016, a team of researchers brought portable X-ray fluorescence equipment to the dagger. The method allowed them to analyze its chemical composition without cutting the blade or removing a sample. The results were remarkable. The blade contained iron, approximately 10.8% nickel, and about 0.58% cobalt. That high nickel concentration was the decisive clue. Iron produced from most terrestrial ores normally contains far less nickel. But the dagger's nickel and cobalt levels matched the composition expected in iron meteorites. The researchers compared the measurements with known meteorite samples and concluded that the blade's extraterrestrial origin was strongly supported. The headline sounded unbelievable. King Tut owned a dagger from outer space. But from outer space did not mean aliens made it. It meant ancient people had recognized a rare meteorite, recovered its metal, and transformed part of it into a royal weapon. That achievement may be even more fascinating than the sensational headline, because meteorite iron is not easy to shape. Iron meteorites are natural alloys formed inside asteroids over immense periods of cooling. Some preserve interlocking crystal structures that can be damaged or erased if the metal is heated too intensely. A later scientific examination, published in 2022, reported patterns and chemical features that the researchers interpreted as evidence of relatively low-temperature forging, below roughly 950 degrees Celsius. In other words, the smith may not have melted the meteorite. Instead, the metal could have been repeatedly heated, hammered, and shaped while carefully controlling the temperature. Imagine the difficulty. The craftsperson had no digital thermometer, no electric furnace, no modern metallurgical textbook. Only fire, charcoal, tools, color, sound, and knowledge passed from one skilled worker to another. Yet the finished blade was thin, symmetrical, polished, and still remarkably well preserved thousands of years later. This was not a crude curiosity, it was elite craftsmanship. And that raises another question: was it made in Egypt? The answer may be hidden in diplomatic letters written before Tutankhamun became king. The Amarna Letters record communications between Egypt and other powerful kingdoms of the Late Bronze Age. One inventory describes gifts sent by Tushratta, ruler of Mitanni, to the Egyptian pharaoh Amenhotep III. Among the gifts was an iron-bladed dagger with a gold handle. Amenhotep III was Tutankhamun's grandfather. The description is tantalizingly similar. This has led researchers to suggest that the dagger later buried with Tutankhamun might have entered the Egyptian royal family as a diplomatic gift, possibly made outside Egypt and inherited by the young king. A 2022 study argued that aspects of the blade and its decoration were consistent with manufacture beyond Egypt, perhaps in the region associated with Mitanni. But this is not settled. Other researchers have challenged parts of that analysis and warned that chemical comparisons cannot securely identify one exact meteorite source or workshop. No inscription on the dagger tells us who made it, and no continuous record connects the gift listed in the Amarna correspondence directly to the weapon in Tutankhamun's tomb. The theory is possible, it is not proven. The Egyptians may have understood that some iron came from the heavens. By the 1st millennium BCE, an Egyptian expression commonly translated as iron of the sky appears in texts. Scholars continue to debate exactly how early the terminology and its meaning can be traced. What is certain is that the sky held enormous religious importance in Egyptian culture. The heavens were the realm of gods, stars, cosmic order, and the rebirth of the king. A rare metal recovered after a fireball crossed the sky would have seemed exceptional, even without a modern understanding of asteroids. But we should be careful. The dagger's meteoritic origin does not automatically prove that it had a specific magical function. Its placement with the mummy shows that it mattered. Its costly materials show that it was fit for royalty. Beyond that, much of its symbolic meaning remains unknown. The mystery becomes more powerful when we separate evidence from imagination. Tutankhamun became king while still a child and ruled for only about a decade. His reign followed a period of religious upheaval associated with Akhenaten, when traditional cults were disrupted and royal attention centered on the Aten. Under Tutankhamun, older religious practices and institutions were restored. But the young king died at approximately 18 or 19 years old. Because his death came unexpectedly, his burial preparations may have been rushed. His tomb was smaller than many royal tombs, and some objects may have been adapted from earlier owners. That complicated history makes the dagger's biography difficult to reconstruct. Was it commissioned specifically for Tutankhamun? Was it inherited from Amenhotep III? Was it a diplomatic treasure preserved in the palace before being placed with the dead king? Each possibility fits part of the evidence. None answers every question. Tutankhamun's dagger is famous, but it was not humanity's first encounter with meteoritic iron. Small iron beads discovered at Giza in Egypt date to thousands of years before Tutankhamun. Scientific analysis has also supported a meteoritic origin for those objects. Other early iron artifacts from the Bronze Age have been identified in different regions. Together, they reveal an important chapter in technological history. Humans worked iron from space before iron smelting transformed civilizations. Meteorites provided only tiny amounts of metal, so these objects could never equip an army or replace bronze tools. Their rarity made them ideal for ornaments, ceremonial objects, and gifts of extraordinary status. Tutankhamun's dagger stands at the boundary between two ages. Behind it was a world where iron could be rarer than gold. Ahead was the Iron Age, when furnaces, ores, and new production methods would reshape warfare, agriculture, and empire. The dagger proves something more profound than the existence of a meteorite weapon. It shows how carefully ancient craftspeople observed unusual materials. They did not need to know that an iron meteorite formed inside an asteroid billions of years ago. They only needed to recognize that this strange stone contained workable metal. They experimented. They learned how it responded to heat and hammering. They refined a fragment of cosmic debris into an object worthy of a pharaoh. Modern technology finally revealed the blade's composition, but the intelligence behind the object was ancient. The unanswered questions remain. We do not know exactly where the meteorite fell. We do not know the identity of the smith. We do not know whether the dagger was made in Egypt, Anatolia, Mitanni, or another center of Bronze Age craftsmanship. And we cannot yet prove that it was the same royal gift described in the Amarna Letters. What we do know is extraordinary enough. More than 3,000 years after Tutankhamun's burial, his dagger still carries the record of an impossible journey. From the interior of an ancient asteroid, through Earth's atmosphere, into the hands of a master craftsperson, and finally into the tomb of a king. A weapon forged from the sky, and a mystery still waiting for its final answer. If you enjoy true stories where archaeology meets the unexplained, subscribe to Tales Unknown. Every mystery has a story. This is Tales Unknown.